morning, everybody. How's everybody doing out there? I hope you're staying safe. Everybody's not insane yet. Being cooped in. We've been cooped in for a while. Appreciate you taking some time out and visiting us this morning. And we're going to be talking about ZENworks test environments. Yeah, I know, not the most exciting topic, but we want to make sure that you can get a test environment up quickly. So we're hoping that this particular ZENcast session will be able to show you a few tips and tricks to get a ZENcast, or I'm sorry, get a test environment up quickly, because they are important. They're quite important. So let's go ahead and move forward on this. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping tips. You can log into YouTube chat and join the conversation, and at direct message by putting an @ sign in front of the name. You'll actually communicate directly with the person, and they'll know they're talking to you directly. We may have some polls, and that'll be topical information. And then there's going to be exclamation points in my slides. If you need that URL in the chat, put the exclamation in the few characters, and it will actually prompt you, like you're seeing in chat now, the URL. So you could just click on that instead of writing it out. Now, if it's a recording, obviously, if you're watching the recording, you'll have to see where that link goes to. But while you're on chat, you can go ahead and do the exclamation point commands, and it'll be easier for you to get to those URLs. Also, YouTube settings, set the autoplay off, and quality for auto 720/60 should be good. If you set those, then you won't have any adjustments in between, and you should have the best video quality during this stream. And subscribe to notification, and you'll get notifications down below. Also, once this recording gets posted, we'll have in the description the links that we talked about in the slide presentation, as well as you can subscribe and notify too. So be sure to check the description if we missed something in between and you needed a particular URL or something. You'll probably be able to find it in the description of this ZENcast. Conferences and gatherings, I don't see too many coming up real soon, but this one is on the first and third Tuesday of each month. So welcome to September. September is here. It's September 1st. So we're glad to have you. It's at 9 o'clock MDT each time we have a ZENcast. And you can also get detailed playbacks of that through that YouTube channel. There is one thing I did want to mention is, even though we've had some past virtual universes and conferences, you can review those tutorials or those conference sessions. So feel free to go out to those conference sessions and review those for the material. If you happen to miss them, you might find some great information on your products and how to manage them and tips and tricks. So I just wanted to post that so you're aware that those stay live, and you'll be able to review those recorded sessions even though you may not have been able to make it. Webinars and cool solutions. Patch Tuesday highlights. August came out, and there it is. They're doing this monthly now. So you have a Patch Tuesday highlights, which talks about the latest frequency of patches, the patches and vulnerabilities that are out right now, and some to be concerned with. So be aware that particular cool solution is happening out on the community page. And then Desktop Containers 20 is coming. Find out what's new. It's a webinar. If you do anything with ZENworks and you do some packaging of bundles, which most everybody does, I would recommend going to Desktop Containers 20 webinar that's coming up. It's on September 8th, and it's going to really help you get to your working at home users. There's a streaming component of it, and it's all in the Desktop Containers platform now. They've wrapped some great features into it, and that particular webinar will cover those, and I think you'll really find it exceptional. Take an extra hour and look at that webinar and watch it, ask questions, and I think it'll be really exciting for you to see what we're doing in Micro Focus to help that work at home users. Home Open Horizon magazines, behind the scenes of ZENworks Service Desk. I found this out there the other day and thought, shoot, that's fantastic. And let me do a couple of things here first. Let's put in this exclamation DC20 so you can get the URL. And then also I found this behind the scenes at ZENworks Service Desk. It was a nice write-up. It was back in May, June timeframe. So I just wanted to make you aware of it so you can check it out. I'll put that out here too. All right, and then webinars index. I've mentioned this before. If you're new to the stream, all the webinars the past few years are indexed. Again, we only grow and evolve our platform, so there's some exciting stuff that's in there that we've already talked about maybe a year or 2 years ago that you may not be using. Browse through those and see if you can learn something new on the webinar index, or the webinar recordings that we have out there. I'll put that in there too. Okay. Yes. All right. So those are the cool solutions coming up. Some product news. ZENworks Configuration Management. We're currently on ZCM 2020 Update 1. There is a TID out there that directs you to all the needed things for ZCM 2020 Update 1. That's TID 7024523. The ZCM PRU for August came out, and September should be out any moment now. And then the imaging driver updates for June 2020 are out there for ZCM 17.1.2.3.4 and ZCM 2020 in Update 1. Remember, ZCM 2017 committed support ends the 31st of October. If you need help getting to that step, please give us a call. We'll be happy to assist you in what you need to do to get to ZCM 2020. We won't cut you off. We just want you to get going to the next level and get all those features and enhancements in. ZENworks Service Desk, the beta has started. If you're interested in it, we'll have it. I think I have another slide on this, but you can email zen@microfocus.com if you want to get really involved. And its current version is 8.1.2 and the beta is 8.2. ZENworks reporting servers on version 7.2. Again, there are security patches out there for ZRS, so be sure to double check those. Database migration tools, we talked about those both for ZCM and ZSD. And then Micro Focus desktop containers 20 is coming. We're currently on 12.7. So those are our product versions and latest news. Micro Focus resources, we're going to cover a few of these. The newly designed Micro Focus support pages. I do want to say that I'm kind of impressed with this one. I know it's been a long time and they've been slowly consolidating things. But as we get to, let me move this over to here. Let's go here. I went out there and I was looking for a particular TID and I didn't even know the TID number. So I did ZAV and it gives you a full list. I mean, it's really quick. So I'm quite impressed with what they have developed here in the search engine. And it's quite quick. So you don't need to know the TID number. You can definitely just go to the search right at the main page and move forward to find what you want, whether it's documentation or what. So I did want to bring that up and let you know about that. They're doing a great job. Ideas exchange portals out there. Please exchange ideas. Put things out there, enhancements, things you want to improve the product. All the products are out there for exchange ideas. So please use that particular forum to be able to put out there. Many people get notified when a new idea is put out there so that they can look at it and vote on it. So we want to enhance this product. The products are for you. We want to do it the best way we can as soon as we can. Product life cycle. If you're not sure of the product life cycle, it's out there. And then other product resources are out there as well. So there's a couple of sites out there that you're probably familiar with, but wanted to review real quick. Another thing is microfocus resources, searching the microfocus site. I just showed you that, but basically it's the search, and put it in the search up there. It's doing a great job trying to find what you need. And then don't forget about Patch Finder. Okay, if you go to Patch Finder, you'll be able to see that version and all its patches. If we just did ZENworks configuration management, it would have listed all the 11, 17, 2020 stuff, but you can actually narrow it down and filter it through. So be aware that that is available out there. It's a great resource to have. Education resources. On-demand training, there's Education Central and there's Education Course Catalog. Now remember, we've been combining different entities, HP and Microfocus and Novell and different things. So they're slowly consolidating this down to one, but I wanted to at least express that these are out there. If you need a training, check these catalogs and be aware that they can give you some good stuff as far as understanding the products. Microfocus knowledge base is there. Product forums is there. Use the forums back and forth. It's great to be able to talk with colleagues who've probably experienced what you've experienced. One thing about support, I've noticed, I came from a customer background, but support, we're limited on what we exercise because we don't use it every day like a customer does. And so it really helps us. The forums help us as well. We monitor those, and we can give you those technical background details on different issues, and we try to help as we can, but also your colleagues are a great resource, and that goes with being able to just discuss with them what's going on. Support and training YouTube channel, which is this one here. I'm glad you're here. Please subscribe to this and you'll be notified when we go live every first and third Tuesday. Webinar recordings, again, are there. Tips and information. There's an index out there, and then ZENworks documentation is there as well. So a lot of those I'm sure you're familiar with. Hopefully there's a couple that are new to you. New ZENworks patch management training is available, and we're using the industry standard to claim badges for your certification. So you can actually get certified on ZENworks patch management, and that is course ZPM 2050-2020, and you can be, that's the specialist exam. So know that that's available to you. We're also working on 2020 install and config, and 2020 administration. So those are to be coming soon, probably next year, but I wanted to make sure you're aware of this patch management. And then the ZENworks community announcement. Oh, and the announcements out there for patch management training under the ZENworks community. Okay. Couple of small things. The Engage newsletter. If you haven't subscribed to it or you don't know about it, please take a view on it. I think you'll enjoy it. Let's see if I have it up. I need to drag this over here again. Looks like nope, it didn't come up. Let's do this. See if it'll come up. It's not coming up. No, I don't see it yet. That's a great newsletter. I'll put it in here for you to go ahead and in the chat. It has not just ZENworks, it has all the different products that Microfocus has for security, and you'll find some great information on webinars, just articles, white papers, knowledge-based TIDs, and so forth. ZENworks Service Desk 8.2 public beta is available. And if you want to just try it out, you can go to the community site, look at the article. There's a link in there where you can just, in the cloud, it'll be available to you. So you can just kick the tires on it. Everything is in that article. The user you can log in as, you can kick the tires and see what the latest looks like. And then if you want to install it on-prem, you can go ahead and email us at zen@microfocus.com, and we'll send you the ISO so that you can do your testing in your test environment. I hope that's helpful to you. And my I gotta restart PowerPoint. Dun dun dun. Excuse me, guys. Let me get this loaded back up. All right, let me load PowerPoint back up. How's everybody doing out there? I hope you're safe and you're able to get those projects done that you've been working on so hard. Let's go slideshow, current slide. There we go, on-prem. So last ZENcast, we had a demo and review. So this is kind of the question and answer we had. Vikram Goyal, the ZCM product manager, showed us part 2 of MDM. And it was basically a recap on part 1, which covered a lot of the install setup and iOS stuff. And then we covered also on part 2, the proxy versus standard communication, FCM setup, Android bundles and policies. We had a question out there regarding a 10,000 foot view of what it looks like to do a reverse proxy. And so I found this in one of the articles out there, and you should be able to find this out. We covered DMZ versus reverse proxy, and then there's other proxies like the MDM proxy server and remote management. So those are out, those details are out there, either on the community site or in the documentation. I wanted to at least present that because it was an outstanding question from last time. Vikram did a great job. If you're looking into the MDM product, I would encourage you to go out to part 1 and part 2 from the YouTube betas or the YouTube channel and take a review of those. ZENworks in the, these are the review. Here's the links for some of those details. The part 1, part 2, the DMZ, managed devices using a ZENworks via reverse proxy, MDM proxy server documentation, and remote management through joint proxy. So if you have questions, again, I really encourage you to put them in the chat down below so that we can answer them either online or after we can get back to you. Also look in the YouTube recording description for URLs. These URLs will be there. Okay? No questions so far. Topics update. Today we're doing ZENworks test systems, and we're going to have a guest on, Peter Sumption. Upcoming is September 15th and October. We're doing inventory management on the 15th. You can see the process flow, troubleshooting inventory, the data collection form, those types of things that ZENworks configuration management has for inventory. So we're going to cover some of those next ZENcast, which is on the 15th. In October, we'll do some database maintenance tips and tools. We have some virtual application streaming and admin studio, which is that webinar coming up this month on September 8th. Don't miss it. I hope to get them on ZENcast so they can elaborate and we can reach this audience here. And then we'll be talking certificates. So that's a little bit of a lineup coming up, and we hope you're able to join us for some of those as well. And this is where we get our ideas from. We sent out a survey, and people have put in suggestions and things that they wanted to look at and wanted ZENcast to cover. So that's what we're doing through each one of these ZENcasts. And there's so much to cover that we're just excited to be able to cover these on a ZENcast for you and have a regular cadence for you administrators to be able to visit. We're going to go to ZENcast Lab Talk, and I think we have Peter Sumptions out there. Are you out there, Peter?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me, Paul?
Yes, Peter. Those that don't know, Peter Sumption was a backline support engineer for the longest of time, and he has moved over just recently to a new department. And what is that department again?
That is, I am an account customer success manager. So our goal is to help customers be successful with their products. That's the goal.
Excellent.
That's and it's awesome.
That's great. You have experience with customers' issues, so you should be able to tie in the different resources that they may need, whether it's sales or service or just a demo. Um,
Yeah,
that would be great.
absolutely.
Well, we're gonna talk a little bit about ZENworks test environments and chime in wherever you want. I know you can't see my slides, but I'll go ahead and read them off for you so that you can chime in. But the first thing is ZENworks test environments. Why? And there was a colleague I had when I was a customer. For the longest time, he had the best quote for this, and he said, "If you don't have a test area on purpose, you'll have one on accident. It's just a matter of time." And it's so true, right? I mean, we decide, no, we don't need. No, we'll just practice it. Oh, we'll try it in this area, and then I'll never forget my first faux pas was I was deploying an antivirus throughout my environment as a customer, and I didn't test it enough, and it was a bad week. Can I just say that much? Because I didn't test enough. And so testing is quite important, being able to have your testing available so you can see what and why. We ask, why do we want testing? Well, concepts and feature testing, regression testing, right? Just the basic, is it gonna work type thing. And then project planning and forecasting, knowing we did a migration of ZCM, and it was on an Oracle database, and we had never done a purge, and I didn't realize that. And so we tried to do so when we did get around to the purge before upgrading to, I think at this time it was 2017, it took 72 hours, literally 72 hours to purge it. We had a long weekend, we kind of knew. But by testing it ahead of time in our test environment, we knew it was going to be real long. So at least we had some project planning and forecasting we can do when we were getting ready to actually do it in production. The other thing is education, training, and learning. Being able to understand the product better. Training others in the product. The test environment can be an isolated environment where if they blow it up, no big deal. We'll just revert the VM, keep going, right? And we learn from those examples. So
Yeah, that's really my favorite thing about a test environment actually is I mean, I have one. I don't have a production environment. I have a test environment, and I love the fact that I can just do whatever little thing, or I don't have to worry about whether I just always have a snapshot on my test environment so that I can play around with whatever, and I don't have to worry about blowing things up. I just go ahead and revert the snapshot, test out whatever, and then when I'm done, I'm like, okay, well, I guess I blew that one. Go
right.
back, do it again, right, until I figure out how to do it right. And but that like takes the pressure off for me. I think that's really one of the biggest benefits of a test environment is taking the pressure off, because you don't have to get it exactly right the first time you try,
Exactly. That's
right?
right. That's right. No, that's absolutely right. The one thing I hate is when I clone my test environment and then I forget to do a snapshot, right?
Yeah.
And then I blow it up, and then I don't have anything to revert to. So, yeah, no, it's great. It's great, and VMs made our world so much easier. Boy, I tell you.
Oh yes.
Documentation, fire and forget. Some of this stuff, I mean, it's good to be able to have a test environment so you can actually document what's going on. And some of this stuff is fire and forget. You did it, 10 years ago on an internal cert. How do you do it again? Sending it out to your satellites and stuff. So it's good to be able to update your documentation too. And it's a knowledge builder, is my last mark on this one. And then test environments, can you put everything into it? No. That's the downside. It's not a complete production environment, but at least you can get the basis of what you're trying to do for that detail, right? For that task, you should be able to set it up enough, because you may not be able to get the same database and content in your zone or your service desk or whatever you're working at. And that's where VMs again come in nice. DNS may not be able to be replicated. LDAP, users and devices. Your production has everything. It's evolved over years, right? I mean, it's been out there for a long time, so it's evolved. There's no way
Yeah.
you can get a test environment to be exactly the same, but you can get close. Some things require email, and on a test environment for service desk, you don't want to plug in, production stuff, else you'll be sending things to the wrong system.
Yep, that's happened.
So yeah, so there are things you don't want to set. You don't want everything in some cases also, and then there's certificates. But again, you're weighing the cost of time versus effectiveness, right? I mean, I need to do this particular task. What do I do to get this out? How much do I test in order to make sure it's at least going to be stable and put in production and is being usable by the users, so that they keep productivity up. So you got to weigh those costs of time versus effectiveness.
So it sounded like earlier when you mentioned the your upgrade that took the Oracle thing where it took
Yeah.
like 17 hours or something. The purge.
72.
That's right.
Yeah, the purge.
72 hours. Oh, well, that's
Oh,
like
yeah.
way longer than what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So it sounded like you hinted that you used a test environment to figure out how long it was going to take. Is that right?
Well, yeah, we guesstimated because we didn't have the full Oracle copied over.
Oh,
And
okay.
so we knew the process, and come down to Monday at about 1 a.m. because Monday was a holiday, so we had that extra day. Come down to Monday about 1 p.m. we were starting to see it finish. But we saw activity happening. We saw the purges going, but we just didn't know how long it was going to take. So again, we didn't have the full thing in there. We didn't expect a full 72 hours, but we knew it was going to be a long time because we did some proactive testing. So
Gotcha. Well, and I've worked with customers who have actually cloned their production environment into a test environment for something big like that.
sure.
You just have to be really careful, like you were talking about. There are some things that are in production, and you may not know that they're connected to production,
Right.
such as emails and stuff like that. But the other thing is you want to make sure that if you're going to do that, and there is a use case for it, right?
Sure.
But if you're going to do that, you want to make sure that the test environment is isolated. I worked with one customer who did that. They set up a test environment and they thought it was isolated, but it didn't. It turns out that it actually wasn't. It was on for like 5 minutes or something when not being isolated. It might have been longer than that. I don't know. But anyway, they called me and were wondering why their primary server was named differently in ZENworks, and we snuck through it without too much impact. But just something to be aware of.
Sure.
Just be really careful if you're going to clone your production environment. There are use cases for it, but just make doubly sure that it's isolated.
Yeah, cross system communication is really critical, and understanding. And this goes back to your corporate documentation. If you have some of these things documented, and of course you're going to experience it. If you experience it once, you don't want to experience it again, right?
Yeah.
But document it so that you don't, and others coming behind you see that. It can be and just nanoseconds are short, right? 5 minutes doesn't take long, right? So they are important. Test systems are important, and ultimately, it's about it's about experience, exposure, and excellence. So you're getting that experience behind what you need to do in production. You're getting the exposure of what tasks are required, as well as if you have to do change control, you need to have downtime, those types of things, even from an administrative side. And then the excellence, and the excellence is not just learning and improving your abilities and your skill set, but also the being able to put in those change control times. I'm trying to fit in change control here because it's so critical to know and forecast what kind of time that is going to take for that task. So if it's major upgrade from ZENworks, 2017.x to 2020, what does that entail? How many primary servers, how many satellites, those types of things. So having that excellence and understanding behind it is really good. And then being able to forecast that up to management. So today we're gonna talk about ZENworks Service Desk, which you're gonna show us.
Yep.
There's ways of reproducing or having a test environments for ZENworks Service Desk. You can have a fresh appliance install. You can clone a VM. You can populate content. And one of those ways is copying the production DB, which you've already stated, and I put an exclamation point or a asterisk next to the database side of this, because that could be critical. There are things in that database that will try to communicate out to and may consume production stuff when it's actually a test environment. And then attached to same or similar systems. Like you said, you've had those that copy their production database. And then scripting, which is what you're going to show us, which you've done a great job in identifying a way to get a service desk system up in a matter of minutes with some prep. And so the prep is what takes a long time. The script runs quickly. But being able to prep that and do it over and over is the advantage here, right? Being able to, you can tear it down and then rebuild it again without a problem.
Yep, absolutely.
The other environment I'm going to show is basically ZENworks configuration management. You can do a fresh install of an appliance. You can image or clone a VM as well. Populate content like the production DB. Be careful. Subscribe and share is another way to get content into that test zone. Export and import bundles policies into the zone, and zman commands. And of course there's manual creation, but I'm going to cover the zman command and doing a script. So I have a basic script that will run through and set up users and different things, bundles, import bundles, policies, just through one script, even do licensing. And these are available to those that are watching, and look in the description if you're watching the recording for the link to those files. Both Peter's script and my script will be in there, and that's in an upcoming slide. Then we have test. Let's not forget about the managed device. We need to make sure that we have a managed device to communicate if we're doing a test on a bundle, right? You have a clean OS, build-in testing, imaging, ZENworks third-party imaging, maybe various versions. You have this 1903s, but you still have 1803s in your production. How do you manage that? But having those VMs is very effective. And then for desktop containers and admin studios, again, having a clean OS for build and testing, a production OS for testing. For OS testing, you can have a fresh OS install. You can have an install with updates, dependencies, re-register to the zone. So one thing I did in my test environment is I was also in charge of a classroom or a test lab where departments would come down and actually teach on their application that we had in our environment for their department. And what I would do is I would basically re-register those devices into my test zone. So now I had a production device or something that looked like a production device in my test zone, so that I can actually test on production devices, right? So something that had
Cool.
all the Java and all the the different setups that you would have in your main environment. So that's just one tip to think about when you re-register them back and forth. You have any comments on the managed devices and what you've done?
I've always had them as far as in my test environment, and obviously ZENworks has all of that. I mean, the reason you have ZENworks is to manage those devices. So when you're doing any kind of test, especially as you mentioned, like bundles and stuff like that, it's critical to have some test workstations.
Sure.
Remember that you can actually define a a workstation or a device in ZENworks as a test machine, and so then you can use sandbox bundles and policies so that and that's like your test environment in your production
In
environment,
production,
right?
right?
So that's so you can have your workstations like you were talking about that are registered to a totally separate zone, right? But then you can also have your workstations that are actually in production, but defined in ZENworks as test workstations, and thus allow you to do some testing actually in production, but just on these particular machines
Sure.
using the sandbox functionality. So that's a good thing to remember.
Absolutely. No, that's a great add as far as you could test in your test zone, but then when you want to actually test in your production zone, you can bring it over and put it in test mode. Either
Yep.
the device or the user, depending on what you're deploying to, and have that bundle or policy in sandbox mode where it receives that content. So no, great add. Appreciate that. There
Yep.
and some of the things there's services and programs, especially, and I refer this to desktop containers and admin studio when you're trying to create a virtual application. There are services and programs out there that will be out there just doing things like Windows updates and SSDP discovery and you'll capture those if you're capturing a virtual app with desktop containers or admin studio. So you want to disable some of those, and there's a TID out there 7017277 that will tell you about some of those things that you want to do because you don't want that extra stuff in your virtual app. You just want the app as pristine as possible. So be aware that when you're doing virtual applications that there are services and programs that you need to clean up, and files you might as well clean up too. So if you've just joined us, be sure to log into YouTube chat, join the conversation, and you can do an @ in front of the username in chat, and it will direct message that individual. And remember the exclamation commands. So we're going to move over to the lab, and this is where we're going to go over to Peter. And let me stop this, and he has his already set up. Peter, I'm going to turn it over to you to show us a demo of the service desk system in less than a minute. So this is remarkable. I appreciate you coming on today. Let's do this.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. So the as Paul mentioned earlier, that setting this up or doing this actually takes a little bit longer than a minute. The setup a demo service desk system in less than a minute is after you've done the prep work. So there is some prep work. I know it does sound a little too good to be true, and I guess it is. But once you have the prep work set up, you can set up a brand new service desk system in less than a minute, over and over and over and over again, right? So that's the goal there. All right. So as Paul mentioned, I am now an account customer success manager. I was on the ZENworks support team for 9 years before that. Started out, went back. I got hired on when the company was still Novell. So, and it's been a great ride. I've been really excited to see the great changes that have been made when Micro Focus came along and we became Micro Focus. I've seen just some really positive things, and one of those things, I'm taking a little bit of a side thing here. One of those things is this new thing about the customer success manager, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the end. But
Yeah, we're
okay,
excited
set up.
about that.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff. So set up a demo service desk system in less than a minute. All right, so why is this tool important? This is just kind of an outline of what we'll go through. Why is the tool important? We'll go through who would use the tool. We'll go through what it's like to set up Service Desk manually, and that really will show why I created the tool in the beginning. And we'll talk a little bit about using Ruby to script the automation. That's the language I wrote the script in. The main.rb script is the main heavy lifting bit of the script, or at least the part that you'll care about when you download the stuff from that Paul has. And then we'll walk through actually setting up Service Desk automatically. Go through a little bit of a summary of what we've done, and then have some question answer. I guess we can just do. I can't see the chat, so Paul, you'll have to feed me any questions that come in through the chat. But
Sure, I'll be happy to.
but then I have a little challenge for you at the end. So that's what we'll go over. So really, why did I create the tool? I mentioned that I've been doing ZENworks support for 9 years, but at the beginning, when I first started, I had never seen ZENworks before. And really, back when I started, Service Desk wasn't really, not many people were using it. We didn't get many calls on it at all. And I was very, very unfamiliar with it. And when I did get a call, I usually panicked. And the reason I panicked is because there's a lot of different things that you have to set up when you're doing Service Desk. And I found it really hard. You have to create objects in a certain order, such as you have to create manufacturers before you can create categories, and categories before items, and items or item types, and item types before items, and items before tickets. It's just like when you first encounter Service Desk, you want to just go open a ticket, and then you find out all of these things that you have to do, but you only find them out one at a time. And I'll go over a little bit of that
Kind of
throughout.
the structure of setting everything
Yeah,
up. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it requires basically you kind of have to know the whole system before you even start, and that's really hard as a beginner. And that's why it really feels like a foreign language, kind of hard to approach at the beginning. So and creating the last thing is, even once you know all of that stuff, right? Creating all the objects in the system in the proper order takes time. You can't just, even me, I mean, I know the system, but if I were to set up a brand new test system from scratch right now without my script, it would take me, several hours probably, just to get everything, organized the way I wanted to, click through everything. There's a lot of stuff that you have to set up. So that's why I created the tool. Even from, because it's useful even for me, right? Even though I've been around Service Desk for quite a while now.
Certainly.
Okay, so you want to set up a Service Desk system manually, right? So, and I kind of described a little bit about this, but the first thing you have to do is like set up the Service Desk server, actually install the product. Right now, it's really super simple. You go and download the OVA, or if you're using a different virtual environment, download the file for that. You put it into the environment, you power on the server, put in IP address, host name, etc. Don't forget to add the disk before you start that process. Before you power it on first, add the disk, but that's
Right.
a different topic for a different day. But anyway, yeah, so that's like, you do that, and but other than that, it's like super simple. All of that stuff is self-explanatory. It will guide you through the process as soon as you power it on. But then you have this empty Service Desk system. And so you're like, oh, cool, I want to go try this out. So you go to the web console and you try to open a ticket, because that's like what the Service Desk is about, right? Is opening tickets. So you try to open a ticket and you find out you need this item thing that you didn't know about. So you try to create an item. You're like, okay, well, go create an item. So you go create an item and find out that to create an item, you actually need an item type. And then you try to go create an item type and find out you need to pick a manufacturer and a category. And the categories are pretty good, but manufacturers, there's only Novell in there. So, if you're doing a workstation, Novell didn't make it. So you kind of want to make it like, kind of realistic. So you have to create category, or you have to create manufacturers. And maybe the categories, the default categories don't fit. So you want to create your own category. But we're pretty deep in this already, right? And finally, after creating all that, you go to create a ticket again, and you find out you can't assign it to, or there's only these default teams, right? So then you go create a team, and you're like, oh, Well, I don't have any technicians in the system. This is like what a beginner service desk user or administrator,
Would
like
experience.
testing out the system, would experience,
Right.
right? And I know that because I experienced it multiple
I
times,
agree.
right?
Me
Like
too.
every time, every 3 months or something, when I would get a ticket or an SR for service desk, it was like, oh, I have to do this again,
How do we do
right?
this again? Yeah.
Yeah, how do you do it again? Because it was so infrequent that back then, and when we get more SRs now, which is awesome because that means people are using it and figuring it out and stuff. But back then it was like, oh, how do I do this? And it's so then I'd have to go talk to people and figure out how to do it. But this is the process, right? This is what I had to deal with. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about, before we go into the other stuff, I want to go talk about who would use it and when. Who would use this particular tool, right? This isn't necessarily about service desk. This is about the tool that we developed here. So really, anyone trying out service desk. So for you guys out there who haven't ever done anything with service desk, this is for you. I created this for you. Anyone demoing service desk. So administrators out there, you've seen service desk maybe a couple times, but you want to like show it off to your manager, like, oh, this would be a cool tool for us to use. And so you want to show off the tool, show off service desk, show what it can do for you, but you want it to look realistic, and you don't want to spend 2 days setting up the system so that so that it looks good. This is also for you.
Sure.
So, and when would you use it? I mean, we've talked a lot about when you'd use test environments. So anytime you were troubleshooting an issue with your production environment, you could set up a test environment. Um, and this would just be like super quick, right? If you've already done the prep work, then you could just run the script, snapshot your VM back to just a default setup. So you had just like powered it on and put the IP address in and everything. And then you snapshot it back and run the script, and you got a brand new system, hasn't been messed with, nothing is messed up or anything with it. So it's all good, right? So another time you would so that's troubleshooting an issue. Another time you might do it is that, you're learning about service desk for the first time. Um, like I said, maybe you haven't done anything with service desk and you just want to try it out, but you want to try it out in a way that's like realistic. This is when you would use this tool.
Right.
Um,
So,
we talked.
so
Yeah,
we,
go ahead.
we talked about, we've had a couple of ZENcasts where I've mentioned to anybody owning ZENworks has at least 2 licenses for Service Desk. And if
Yeah.
you haven't tried it, you can do things with Service Desk with just 2 licenses that are awesome. Like we had Bob Reynolds talk about asset management through Service Desk. I've done some things with the store and being able to present to your customers or the users a store to be able to provision ZENworks bundles through it. And so even if you've never propped up Service Desk, if you own it, it's a great tool to do other things with, just besides ticketing, even though it does a great job with ticketing also. So yeah, this is great comment.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Paul. So, we talked a little bit about setting up a test environment. You'd like set up a test environment to troubleshoot an issue. I guess I've got those a little bit out of order there, but that's okay. And then another reason, as I discussed earlier, you want to demonstrate service desk for your management, and show them what it could do for you. And like Paul mentioned, it's good to remember that if you own ZENworks, you own Service Desk as well, and you can download it and use it with those 2 licenses. So even if like this doesn't require a purchase, if you already own ZENworks, you can go ahead and try it out. You can use it. You just got the 2 licenses. Now the licenses, Service Desk is licensed based on the number of technicians or people working tickets. So those 2 licenses are 2 people working tickets in the system. So you can have as many customers as you want. You just have those 2 licenses, those 2 technician licenses. So that's how that's licensed. And it isn't dependent on how many end users you have. So if you're just a small environment or small IT shop, but a lot of users, great, you can use Service Desk. with those 2 licenses. So that's really good.
And
But yeah,
licensing changes, so check with your rep, because if you have ZenWorks Suite, you have an advantage there if you have the ZenWorks configuration management suite. So, and I'm not
yes, that
sure
is true.
I'm not sure of the details, so I don't want to misrepresent, but check it out. It's even a greater advantage.
Yeah, yeah. If you have the ZenWorks suite, you're right. You're right. Talk to your sales rep about that for sure. All right. So now, why did I use Ruby, right? I don't know how many of you are familiar with Ruby. It's a programming language. I say just a programming language. It's like my favorite programming language, and it's because it's intuitive. It's like I'm reading English when I'm reading Ruby code. So, and I knew some Ruby, and I knew that it was capable of what I wanted to do here. So I went with it. As I mentioned, it's readable, it's intuitive. It is still code, right? But for me, it tends to be really easy to read, and it's multi-platform, so you can run it on multiple platforms. All right, so actually using the tool, and this you'll have to try out. I included a README on how to set this up. That's in Paul's files that he's going to show a slide on where to get this.
Yeah.
You can download it, and there's a README in there, and follow the instructions in there. But basically, you just open the main.rb file, put in your service desk server address and port. And if you want to change any configurations, you can in main.rb. That's like I have mine based on Star Wars characters. And maybe you don't want Star Wars, maybe you don't want to show off Star Wars characters to your boss. Maybe you want like the names of actual people in your organization to show like how it would work. You can do that. But when you first do it, you might just want to run the script and see what it does, right? And then change things around a little bit afterwards. But that can be changed right there in the main.rb. And then after you get that done, you just run Ruby main.rb in the Ruby interpreter window, and it will pop open a browser and do all of the stuff. And I'll show that here in a minute. So, but that's why I used Ruby, and how to use it a little bit. Okay, so I already mentioned the main.rb script, and again, you can get the file and look at it and see, and read it and see what it does, but it just defines the code that you will care about. There's some background code that you probably won't care much about. It's like, which HTML tags to click on and those kinds of things. You're welcome to look at it. It's included, and it's used in the tool, but most of what you care about is going to be in the main.rb script. This main.rb script defines which technicians, teams, manufacturers, categories, item types, and items to create, and it defines in what order everything is done. It is that the order is important. It's the tool isn't like amazingly refined to perfection, so if you put things a little bit out of order, you might run into some issues. I think that the error messages they might be I don't know. They may be hard to do. I would stick with the order that I have there, as far as you want to create, as I mentioned, all of those different orders. Like you don't create the ticket first, right? You create the manufacturer first or the category first, and then you move on from there. I think my script actually creates users first. But anyway, this main.rb script defines what order everything is done. And if you follow the pattern in that script, even if you were setting it up manually, you would actually be in pretty good shape as far as not having to backtrack and do other, go back and say, oh, well, now I need to create this first. But if you just kind of follow that pattern that's in the script, it will work for you. Okay. So the moving parts. Now this, you'll see this dotted line here, and then some other stuff. So I started this actually before I moved to my new role, and I think the goal is to continue it. Not sure exactly what that looks like. I'm just starting out in this, or I'm just getting going in my other role, so I haven't like turned back to further develop this. But Paul's looking at possibly helping with the development as well.
Sure,
The
you bet.
goal is the goal is here to, I wonder if I have like a little laser pointer or something that I could show. Yeah, there we go. You see that?
I see that.
Okay, cool. So this little dotted line here, this shows what the tool does right now. Here's our service desk server right here. Here's our workstation where we've installed Ruby and put the script. And basically right now, what it does is it goes to the browser on the service desk server and does all the things and so forth. The eventual goal is that it would communicate both with the service desk server and the ZENworks primary server over here, do some configuration on the ZENworks side, do some configuration on the service desk side to connect these two so that service desk is now talking to ZENworks and pulling inventory information and so forth. In order to enable that process, they both connect to the same LDAP server. And the goal would be that the script would enable that connection quickly and easily with a service desk server that was started from scratch. And then, it pulls everything in that's needed. So then you have like devices from your regular primary server. Maybe this is your test environment, right? Since we're talking about test environments today. But it pulls everything in, like devices and bundles and so forth from ZENworks into Service Desk so that you can open tickets on those items in Service Desk. That's kind of the eventual goal. Right now, what you can download from Paul's link that he'll put, what it is right now is you'll have the script on the workstation, on your admin workstation, which will talk to the browser or use a browser to talk to the service desk server and configure some things automatically for you. That's what we have right now.
Well,
Okay.
if I can,
Yeah,
I have to
sure.
say that you can even if you don't have, if you wanted to look at your ZenWorks Zone devices and bring them into the test service desk or even to service desk, you could do that as well because it's a one-way communication, right? It's not like it's doing anything to the zone at all. Everything comes into service desk, so you could always revert the service desk and do it again. So you could tie in your production ZenWorks and see how your production service desk will function with those items.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. It is a one-way thing. The only thing that we ever configure on the ZenWorks side is we import the service desk server cert
Right.
into ZenWorks so that ZenWorks knows that we can communicate safely with it and it can send that information over. But yeah, you're exactly right, Paul. You can't Service Desk never writes anything back to the ZenWorks database. It's all like standalone. It's just kind of a read-only for both LDAP and ZenWorks.
Yeah, LDAP too.
Um,
Right.
and so it just pulls that information into Service Desk. And yes, you're right. You can revert Service Desk as many times as you want and do the process over again. And it doesn't change anything on the LDAP side or the ZenWorks side. So that is a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, cool. So I think, do you have any questions about this or comments?
No questions. We can continue on.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So let's see it in action here. Here's our demo. All right, I'm going to switch over here. I've got a window. There it is. Here's my admin workstation where I have installed the tool, and it's, as you can see, it's at the service desk login page here. So I'm going to go ahead. This is a default empty service desk. All I did was download the appliance, configure the IP and everything like that, the second disk and that stuff, powered it on, and here we are, right? You'll see that there's nothing here. I'm going to go ahead and put in the default credentials, super. That stands for supervisor, by the way, in case you're wondering. I know it is a super username, but that's what it stands for. Okay, so you'll see that the only check mark is this. The only thing that's configured so far is I had to configure the license because the trial license had run out. But that's the only thing that I've done. I haven't connected it to ZENworks. No, haven't configured email. I've done nothing else.
And this is the quick getting started page that takes you to those locations to configure those items, right?
Yes, exactly. So I will quick plug for this page. Do this. If you're doing it like if you're not using my tool, like do this page. Follow the steps and the process, the kind of the flow in this page, and you'll be in good shape.
And you have to be a supervisor, right? And it's at the
Yep,
top of the
yep,
page is the going into and getting out of getting
yep,
started, right?
yep, exactly right
Yeah.
here. So if you're this, like if I click here to connect to ZENworks, it will go ahead and take me directly to the page where I need to
Configure.
configure ZENworks. And actually, there is a special functionality just for the getting started mode. So if you go to it manually, you won't see this, but if you go to it from the getting started page, you have this thing where you can put the ZENworks administrator username and password, and it will actually pull over your user source from ZENworks and
The database
configure,
credentials.
yeah, the database credentials and so forth. And that's super helpful. So do this. Even if you run my script, also go back to the getting started page and configure ZENworks from there. That when I first encountered Service Desk, this getting started page didn't exist, and that if I had had this getting started page, I may not have created the tool actually.
That's true.
But that's the tool is still super helpful. But also, use this page. It is your friend. Log in as a supervisor and use this page for sure. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and exit getting started here just to show you what an empty service desk server looks like. Oh, it took me to here. Let's go. I'm going to log out, log back in just so that we see what it's like when you first log in and exit getting started. Super. Okay, so if I just click exit getting started, okay, here's what it looks like when you log into Service Desk. Haven't done anything, any configuration, it's just brand new. If I click, so here's home, you see no tickets here. This is a list where your tickets belonging to you as a technician would show up. If you go to operations, again, you see incidents, incident groups, nothing here, no tickets. Okay, we go over here to configuration. We have this one item, right? And I guess I'll go back over here and show you, like this is the experience I was talking about. We want to create a new ticket. So, well, there's only this one user in here, system supervisor. Okay, so I guess I'll show that. But then it's like there's only this one item. I can only create a ticket on one item. The service desk item. I don't even know what that is. I guess it represents the server, right? So I could select it, but it doesn't really make sense to my demo stuff, right? It just doesn't make sense. So that's why we have the tool. It'll fill this information in, and you'll see that here in a bit. I'm going to cancel there. Are you seeing my changes live, Paul? I know one time I did this and
Yes.
it was super slow. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it was going quickly now. Okay,
Yep.
so if we click here, configuration, you'll see this one item, right? Click on types. We'll see just one type, again, a service desk type. Category is a little bit more filled out because these can be, some defaults, right? We've got ZENworks bundle, software, service, printers, scanners, all these different hardware is probably one of your biggest ones that you'll use. So these are pretty good. You may want to create one or two more, but typically this might cover you. But still, maybe there's one here that you wanted a demo that you didn't have, that wasn't there. All right. Again, vendors, right? Manufacturers. There's only the Novell manufacturer, which doesn't even exist as a company anymore. kind of funny that it's still here actually, but it's part of our legacy. We're definitely, I know Paul, big fan of the big red N, right? So, but it's a great part of our history. Okay, so
Well,
manufacturers,
and when Service Desk started out, we had that as we were still Novell,
right? Exactly.
so they
Yep,
just
yep.
haven't pulled it out yet.
They just haven't changed that. Maybe we ought to open an enhancement request to change this to micro focus.
Yeah.
But it says micro focus up in the branding, the colors and everything. You're good. But okay, so there's the manufacturer list. So we probably wanted more than that, and I'll show you in the script does that. We're going to go ahead and just jump over here to the user, and we only have one customer. And in the users, we only have the system supervisor, just the default one there. And under teams, we've got a couple of teams, a default incident team and a store team. I think Paul's talked a little bit about the store team on other things, but the default incident team, well, when you're using Service Desk, you probably won't just have the default incident team. You'll probably want something like a network team, and some other teams there. So that we really want to
Desktop workstation teams,
yeah,
help desk
yeah,
teams.
exactly. Paul knows more about this because he's actually been the customer using ZENworks. So that's good. Thank you, Paul. All right. So yeah, but here's what it is. You got the teams here, and there's not these default teams just aren't really sufficient to show everything that you want. So this is what an empty service desk system looks like. And if you try to create it from scratch, you will run into, and you don't know about it in ahead of time, you will run into the situation that I described earlier, where you hit one block after another block after another block, and it just like so takes so long to get it going. Okay.
And that's because if you're using that particular action or task, the foundation has to be built underneath it ahead of time, and
Yeah.
sometimes you don't know that needs to be built up. So.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And so that's what this script does, is it automatically builds the foundation so that you can just jump right in there and do it and do something that's actually useful and like makes sense to you first coming into contact with it. Okay, so here we go. So this is the main.rb script. We've got, and this is where you'll edit. And you just change this IP address to the one that you have. The port will likely be the same. And then we're going to run the script. So I'm going to leave this as what mine is. Okay, so here we go. We're going to run Ruby main.rb, and you'll watch the magic happen here.
Drum roll, please.
Da-da-da-da. Oh, here we go. The demo gods got me.
Oh, they got you. Yeah.
What happened here? Start. What? Permission denied. Wow.
Is the right IP still on the new one?
Yeah. Oh, it's working. It's doing something. Hold on. I don't know if it's actually going to go there, though. What would the permission denied be? Hold on. Putting my troubleshooting skills to the test here. Permission denied. Just a minute. Let me check something. Why don't you, do you have something else you want to talk about for a few minutes, Paul, while I look into this and see what I can get?
I can go through a couple of things, sure.
Or what would you like? How would you like to do it? Would you like me to like try to figure it out as we're on, or do you want to jump to something else?
Well, they may experience the same thing, so I don't mind if you think that you have something, Neil, but I don't want to put you on the spot either. And we got about 50 minutes left.
Okay, give me just a minute here.
I'll let you go ahead and do that. I'll go on to a couple other topics, and then just ping me when you're ready.
Okay. Go ahead.
That way you can discover what it is and jump to the chase.
Yep.
Okay,
I
so
will.
let me
I'll
go.
do some research over here.
Let me do current slide. So we went to the
Thank
lab. Oh yeah, sure.
everybody. But as you know, these things happen in the lab.
Absolutely. No, for sure. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about ZENworks configuration management, and you can add bundles. I got an any build. I got an add 2017. So these are different scripts that I have. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my browser here, and so we have basically go full screen here. And we basically have a blank system. We got a primary server, and that is it. Not even policies or bundles. And we can go ahead and set up. I did start setting up for sharing, right? If we have time, we'll go ahead and go through that. But let's first go to our 1.3. Let's go here. And let's go to our 27, which is our server. No, 77 is the one we want, which is our appliance. Okay. And if we go root, so you see at the top, add 2017 import, add bundle, and any zone import. We'll be going into those, but let's take a look at what those are first. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at one of my we don't even need to do this. Let's go over to here. Bring this over. We'll go to G, products. Come on now, be nice. Products, Novell, ECM, and we're going to go to import. And we'll go to any zone import. And this is the one you'll have. Actually, you have an updated one, but we'll open this up. And this is what you can do with a zman command. Now, a zman command can do any one of these individual commands. There's also a command called zman bex that will do it in a script. Okay? And again, just like Peter said, there's things that have to be in order. These also have to be in a certain order, depending on what you're doing. Obviously, you need a folder before you can create a bundle and put that bundle in the folder, right? So you'll see some of these things, the roles, so you have to create a role first and then create admin role rights, license activation check, your licensing, yours is a 2020, just put 2020 in here and you can actually license it with your license. Okay. And if it's a test zone, you won't, there's no additional charge for that being it's test zone. So be aware. And there's a ZENworks suite as well, which is ZENworks 2020. But going down here, creating workstation server folders, creating workstations, which you can do dummy workstations. You can have a CSV file and create, let's say you just got in 200 devices that are on the shelf. Well, if you have service tags for them, for instance, and you name your devices after your service tag, then you can create in that CSV file in ZENworks those service tags. Then when you do your imaging, you can tie them together and then it'll just deliver it where it needs to go in whatever folder it is. But so you can do dummy devices or workstation devices ahead of time before they're actually registered in with ZENworks. And then we have server groups and then registration roles. And then we get down to registration rule set, that's just to display it, and then creating bundle folders. And we have some bundles in here, and use this as a template, right? I'm not giving you all the files and everything to download, but you could see in a way what the syntax is and what you need to do if you have an action, if you have content or if you don't have content. Notice this one doesn't have content. It just launches the services, where this one does the Craig's SM parse, and it has content. So it gives you a variety of ways to do your syntax and what you need to put in there. I'm going to go back to the top, and you'll see that there's a user source create. All right, I'm going to give you an XML file to use that you could put right here. So if you wanted to create a user source in the script, you can, and then create some administrators as well if you wanted to. But feel free to rem those out or remove them if you're using this particular script as a template. We'll go all the way down to the bottom. Again, we got creating bundles, bundle creates. We got policy folder creates. We have policy folder or policy creates and bundle creates. And then we got some mobile stuff. So you also have policies for mobiles and where it's putting them. Again, the syntax of where it drops those. So this one has under policies, mobiles, mobile enrollment policy. So there's the syntax is in here, so you can kind of get a reference of that. Bundles for mobile apps and branding. One thing that you need to be aware of is your policy for ZESM needs a key for the security part of it, and that's also in here, so that you can import that particular key as well and how to do that. All right, so basically we're going to dump this to that server and we're going to run it real quick. We actually have a couple of them, so I'll take a couple steps at a time. Let me go and see. We're there. Ooh, demo guides are getting me too. Wow.
I ran it again and mine worked, so maybe try that.
Oh, okay. Wow. Failed at exception spawn. Oh, I think I gotta restart this guy. Restart.
This is why we have test environments.
Per the topic today, test environments. See if we get this back running real quick.
Not that things don't happen in production even after you tested, but it's at least you know some of the things you can cross off your list, or at least you've dealt with them by the time you get to production.
For sure. Yeah, this thing has been up for a while, so I don't know what the deal was on it. It is just about there. Let's go ahead and type in root. Super secret password. And we're going to go to CD TMP ls, and we'll go into CD add bundle. Sorry. ls. Now all we need to do is do a zman bex, which is the batch executable, and do the text file that's at the top. Add bundles .txt. Again, case sensitivity. Now I haven't stored my credentials, so I expect it to, I don't think I've stored my credentials. So I expect it to prompt me for the ZCC administrator. Oh, it's processing them now. So it's going to create a folder called test area. Everything's running on this. Wondering why it's slow. Let me go over to my ZENworks Control Center. It's going to kick me out because we rebooted. See if it comes alive. Try again. That's better. Let's go to, has this come up yet? No, we're going to go ahead and close that. Open ZENworks Control Center. And let's go back here, see if it's, it hasn't gone very far. There it goes. So this one has some action content, some of these bundles. And if it fails, you go to the you go to the regular logging location on the primary server and check the ZMan log. And this is for, you can see that it failed 3 of the 21, and you can go into those and see why it failed. Probably a syntax. This has evolved, this particular bundle, this particular update. So let's go back over to ZENworks Control Center, Administrator. Oh. And what was blank, now if we go to the home, you can see we have 12 policies, 5 bundles. Now let's run real quick before we pass it back to Peter to the big one. cd ls cd any zone. So we're going to go ahead and do the 2017. So let's do zman bex batch execute for customer 2017, which the 2017 has some mobile stuff in it. MDM came in at that time. So right now it's asking for, it's creating and it's saying you want to store the administrator credentials for any upcoming ZMan commands. So you have to put in and I put an ASC in there. You don't have to do that in your script, but that's what it's prompting. So now it'll save ASC. So anytime I do any ZMan command, it won't prompt me for the administrator password. Once that goes through, it's now going to say, hey, you're creating a ZMan administrator. What's their password? And retype the password. And what's the number 2 password? And retype the password. So there are some, very few commands that require you, obviously, some input to that. But the rest of this is just going like gangbusters. You can see how many we have success at the end. Doing some .NET, doing some tests for CCNA, got some Microsoft Office, some with content, some without. Now it's doing some policies. And we have 32 errors, but let's go back to our zone and refresh. And now you can see our workstations increased, our bundles increased, and if we go to bundles, you can see this is all populated now. We have external corporations, we have the shared was there, you got the administration, you got that test area that had a bunch of, that was my first one that we did, the add bundles. So you have all these things that are in here that weren't before, as well as policies are similar to that. And then if you look, you have in the configuration, the branding policies in there. You also have some locations. If you want to replicate locations, these weren't there before. The only thing that's default is unknown. So that's about the ZENworks. And so I will provide that script through in an upcoming slide. You'll see it, as well as it'll be in the description of the recording. I'm going to go ahead and give it back to Peter, who says he's ready to go. Let me get you back on, Peter.
Okay.
There you go. You're back.
Okay. Cool. Well, we'll see. I'm ready to go. We'll see if my system is. So, all right. There's a couple different errors here because I didn't want to. All right, we're just gonna try. I tried running it a couple times and I didn't want it to go all the way through, so I just shut down the browser window and hopefully that will allow us to go through. I think what was happening is there was a delay in how fast the browser window opened, and Ruby couldn't connect to the browser window. It couldn't find it. So I think that's what happened last time.
Oh, okay.
We will see. So, because the last couple times I ran it, it opened super fast. And so here we go. It opened right away, and we should see it navigate to the service desk server address. Yep, here we go. It entered my hands are away from the keyboard right now.
So this is very visual.
Yes.
Unlike mine. Okay, good.
Yep. So it's actually interacting with the browser itself, right? So it's as if a user was sitting here. I use Selenium in the background and a tool called Capybara on the Ruby side. So now we just created the users, and now we're creating teams and adding the users to those teams. So when we say user in Service Desk, we're meaning a technician. When we say customer, we're meaning end users. So that's changing in the upcoming release. I believe, is that in 8.2 yet?
I don't know if it's in 8.2. I think it's after that.
Okay. At any rate, it's coming up that we're going to refer better. I guess I don't know for sure what that change is going to be. Is that are we changing? I know because we changed it to the end user portal, the new one. I shouldn't get distracted here. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that distraction there. But anyway, you see, this time it worked. It outputs to the console here what it's doing. So it created Obi-Wan Kenobi. These are all users, right, or technicians. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Leia Organa, Luke Skywalker, Jar Jar Binks, right? Created several teams, created an additional type or an additional category called laptop from the category hardware. So we just duplicated that one. And we created a manufacturer, HP Inc., Dell Inc., created a couple of different workstations, and then some specific items, or a couple different item types, and then some specific items. So now that that's created, and again, my hands were away from the keyboard the whole time, so we're going to go ahead and log out here. We're going to log in as Super again, just because that's what we did before. Still, these things are not, you don't see any of the green check marks here, but that's okay because we're just doing, it's as if we did some things manually, but we actually did it through the script. So if we exit the getting started page, still we don't see any tickets here because I didn't create any tickets in the script. However, if we go over here to configuration, now we've got a couple of different 15T EB000 touch laptops, and I use the hardware category for the XPS 15. So we've got three different items now that were not there before.
Tickets towards, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was create tickets, and I'll do that in just a second here. We've got types. We've got these two different types, the XPS 15, and then this HP laptop up here, the 15T. All right, categories. We've got an additional category that wasn't there before, laptop. It's basically just a copy of the hardware category, but maybe you want to differentiate those. So that's just showed that as an example. Manufacturers, we've now got HP Inc. and Dell Inc. Under users, you'll see our 4 users that we added. This is in the customer tab. I made them customers as well as technicians. So you'll see them here. Under the users tab, you'll also see them, but you'll see there are different processes that are enabled for them. Under teams, you'll see facilities, security, support. These 3 different teams were added. So those were not there before. Now, if we go, so now it's as if, let's pretend that I was encountering the system for the first time, right? And now I want to, the first thing I want to do, well, it's a ticketing system, right? So I want to figure out, okay, how do the tickets work? Oh, look, I've got a list of customers here. Okay, I want to create this ticket for Luke Skywalker, right? Now, I did a little bit of I didn't check when I created the items, I didn't make them, let's just go ahead and do that. Hold on, I'm going to cancel this. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. I'm going to go ahead and do a bulk edit on these 3 items that were created.
So they showed arrived, but they haven't showed deployed yet, right? If you
Yes.
cancel,
Oh,
go ahead
hold
and
on.
cancel there.
I guess I can't do it from
There's a
bulk.
column right there. Yeah, you can, but see, they arrived on the status,
yep,
and
yep.
it's
Arrived.
to let the others know. Yep.
Right.
And
Yep.
so we really can't do a ticket towards something that's arrived on the shelf. It's something that we have deployed. So
Yep.
that's what Peter's going to do now, is make them deployed.
If I select them and hit bulk, see, but it doesn't give me.
I thought you could.
I thought you could too, but apparently you can't. I was expecting there to be a drop down here that said status.
Yep.
But that's okay. We'll just go into these, edit, status deployed. Go ahead and save that. And go back to our items. Now it'd be nice if my script did this, and I should update it to do that, but I haven't yet. So.
But the good news is we can with a script.
Yep.
So let's say you order 20 devices or 200 devices, you can then script it out to put these items in, or to make them deployed or on the shelf or whatever.
Right. There would be better ways if you were actually doing it in production. There would be better ways, such as importing them from ZENworks. So
ZENworks
that would
optimum, yeah.
Yes. So okay. So here we go. We'll do this last one here. Edit. Deployed. Save. Okay. So now we're going to go back to operations. Click new. Open this ticket for Luke, and now you can see these 3. Since the status is deployed, they show up here. Now, if you didn't want, or if you wanted to see items that were not deployed yet, that were arrived, you can actually just uncheck this active items only and hit search down here, and it would show them even if they were not deployed yet. But just to show that I wanted to go in and change this to deployed. So, okay.
So that would be if they're on the shelf ready to be deployed, you can create a ticket on the inactive item that's on the shelf to be deployed for a technician to go out and deploy it.
Yeah, okay. Correct. And you could go and change it after.
And then once it's deployed, now any tickets would be like break fix type stuff.
Right. Yep. Okay, so I'm just going to pick one of these laptops here. And next. So since it's Luke. Oh, I did this wrong. I was supposed to be logged in as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's see what happens. Okay, so right now the technician is system supervisor, right? We've got Luke Skywalker's the customer. We've got our item number there. But this isn't, we don't want it on the default incident team. We actually want it on the support team. And look at that. Obi-Wan Kenobi got the ticket. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, so there we go. So
Excellent.
it's the ticket. And now if we go done here, you'll notice we see it here because we're the system supervisor, so we can see everything. We see all incidents right here, right? If I say my incidents, that ticket goes away. If I log out and log in, I can actually log in as Obi-Wan Kenobi. The username is OK. And the password and actually, if you use the script, it will be the same. The password is Novell. And if we log in as Obi-Wan Kenobi here, and obviously you can go in and change those in the script if you want to, but notice that now we get to the default view of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he has this ticket here. So there we go. There we go. There we go. Let's see, how do we do this? There we go. Use the force, Luke.
That completes the cycle. Absolutely.
There we go. And then we're gonna say, okay, we're gonna go ahead and just say, hold on. If we say, we can go from, oh, I guess we should have put it in open. Gotta save that. And then we're gonna say edit. We're gonna say, okay, so we'll just say on hold pending approval. So that means that Luke has to say, yes, go ahead and close it. And there we go. Now, let's see. Let's just see what. I actually haven't played with this part. Do you want me to show this part, or should we just be done there? I was going to go in and log in as Luke.
As Luke? All right. Sure.
Okay. So if I go ahead, but we want the end user portal here. This one might bite me, but I'll show you. It may not let me log in. So the username is ls, same password. Yeah, okay. So if you're watching, this is actually a known issue, and I'll show you how to fix it. So 203, and we want to go to the appliance portal. I don't know if this one has this one been reported, Paul? I don't know if it has.
I'm not sure.
I don't know if we've actually put a bug in for this one. That's bad because I've been aware of it for some time now. If we log in as root, the thing that's happening here is actually that the system is out of time sync with.
Oh, I have experienced that as well.
So if I just click OK here, it will actually sync the time, and then it will work. So I go back here, you'll notice, and I'll just refresh here. And I do ls. And now it takes me into the portal.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay, so that's because, yeah, that's because time sync hasn't happened yet. Okay, so here's my ticket. And if I go in here, on hold, pending approval, no actions, awaiting my approval. I'm not sure, maybe I have to go
into it, I think. Oh.
put them there. Okay, I don't know. I thought that it would allow me to. I might have to have some other stuff set up.
There's one other setting I think we have to, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's one more setting.
Allow Luke or the customer. But that's where you would basically say, I approve, and then it would close.
Yeah, it might be good to go and show that really quick if you want to, or we could That's kind of a little bit off topic here.
Yeah, we're gonna hold it there. So
Let's hold it there.
they'll know, at least if they have your script, that they need to do some more investigation in that area, and we can cover that next week on how to, on the recap for this week. On my next ZENcast, I do recaps. So if we get the details on that, I'll recap that, and they'll be able to resolve that.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So I'm gonna that shows how how we started out empty. We ran the script, and then we have all of this stuff that we can play with now that wasn't there before. That would have taken probably hours, well, for sure, probably days to figure out if you're starting from scratch, right? And don't know the system. Hours probably, even if you do know the system. And again, we just let the script do all that work for us.
Right.
It created technicians, teams, manufacturers, categories, item types, items, and it did all of that. So just to kind of tie it all together, setting up service desk from scratch, it takes a lot of understanding, or it takes a lot of understanding of the product, and it takes a lot of time. Using the script makes it consistent every time. So it's the same setup every time. You can change the script to change the setup, but it's the same every time. It'll be consistent with the script every time you run it, and it can be brand new for each test. So if you've got one issue you want to test it, or you got one demo you want to test it, and then you can make some changes, and you're like, well, I don't really like that too much, so let's wipe it away and start over for the next one. And it completes in less than a minute. Pops open the browser, does all that stuff, and you do have to install the tool, install Ruby, and download the script. But other than that, it does it in less than a minute.
Yeah, it does some real good stuff, and part of that, it's not, they're trying to keep to the Pink Certify, which is the ITIL standard, and that's why there's so many levels and configuration settings from the foundation that has to be done. So if you're ITIL certified and you have that knowledge behind you, it won't take obviously as long. So it's almost said, and a lot of people don't have that ITIL background. So it does take a little bit of time to understand what that foundation is for what they need to do. So this particular script really helps build that foundation and gives you a kickstart for that.
Yep. Any questions in the chat, Paul?
No, I don't have any questions in chat. They're pretty quiet today, which is fine. And we'll go ahead and any other closing comments? I hope to have you on to hear about your your account customer success things that you're running into as a manager there. I'm glad that you got that promotion and you're over in that team. I know you'll do a lot of good out there. We'll miss you here on support, but you're going to be doing a lot of support on that end. So we appreciate you, and hopefully some of the people watching will hear from you. So if it's you directly or you and your team, so that they can make sure that they're a success as well with the product.
Yeah. So I said at the beginning that was the one. Yes, one more comment. I said I was going to give a challenge, and the challenge would be to, if you use the tool, figure out to write down a scenario that you would that you might be able to use the tool, and put it there in the chat if you want to chat it. We can follow up on that. Or really, the challenge for now would be to go, once Paul shows the slide, go download the tool and try it out. That would be what I'd ask you to do. So
you bet. Yeah,
thanks for listening.
I'll show you. Thank you, Peter, for coming aboard and showing us that. We appreciate your time spent here and showing us that we can actually do that quickly with some of these, with using your tool and actually bypass some of the confusion by having your tool in place. So
absolutely.
I wish you well. I ask you to stay safe, and I'll go ahead and cover some of the desktop containers. You can stay on if you want, or you can drop off. But I'm going to go back into desktop containers now.
Right. Cool. Thanks so much,
Thanks,
Paul.
Peter. You bet.
Appreciate it.
Yep. So we did the add build ZENworks configuration. We saw the zone, how it started building it up. I don't know that we went back into it. Let me go back here. So we have some obvious workstations here. If you look at the workstations, you'll see that they're just all the dummy ones in the CSV. There's no inventory or anything on them. But you can pre-populate, and then as reconciliation happens with those particular devices, they would come in to the correct location. So that's a good thing to have if you're doing a lot of mass population. Also, going into the error that we got some Z-man errors. So if we do a cat, let's do C. Where are we? Let's go out there. Cat Z-man log rep error. Okay, so if you go to the Z-man log, you'll see it failed to save the branding policy. There's one right in here. The top one, it couldn't find the action type. So as you look at these particular errors, you can then weed through. Obviously, it couldn't find a bunch of the mobiles down at the bottom, the policies, mobile device policies, and the security policy. So it's all in the log. If we did a no minus grep, or we can scan through this way as well. There's our first error, failed to save branding policy. And then you kind of notice it because you get the target exception error with the Java code. And so, for instance, the line near the bottom, it says post-validation on policy, reusing policy specified file during policy creation does not exist. So it kind of tells you and gives you hints of where to look for some of these particular errors. And that's a pretty long script, so there's quite a few things in here, and we had 13, 30, I don't know, I don't remember what it was. It'll tell us at the end, actually. It'll give us our conclusion. Error code 2 completed. I thought it summed it up here. I guess not. Pretty sure it's in there somewhere. Okay, but it's on the console nonetheless when you run that. And that gets us to a test environment fairly quickly. And you can use your standard bundles, your standard policies, and bring them over. If we wanted to configure policies for to do a zone-to-zone transfer, we can then go to 27. And let's pick a couple of bundles in here that we want to bring over. Subscribe and share we have set up. Actually, we're doing zone sharing from this guy too. This is my 77. Shared content, we don't have any. So if we go to a bundle, and let's say we want Notepad++ to be shared, we'll go ahead and share that. And it has to be published, so, but it can come into the new zone as sandbox. And we're going to share, add the subscriber, which is ZenAdmin, which is our 77 box. So you can share back and forth between the two. Let's go to policies, and we'll go to, let's say, this ZEX. We're going to share, add ZenAdmin. We're good. Now that we have the link between the two of them, we're going to go to subscribe and share, zone sharing, shared content. Oh, subscribers, new. Hang on a second. Subscriptions. New subscription. ZENworks subscription. We're going to share on 27. Register with the zone. Subscriber key. I think that's what I gave it. You can view the certificate from the server. And we can register. Failed to connect. Let's go back over there and see what's going on. We're coming up to the tail end of this. Let's go to subscribe and share. Zone sharing. Shared content. Subscriber keys. Production 27. Go back. It's disabled. Let's go back over here. I didn't see that it was disabled. Okay, we're there. It's authorized for those two. Let's go back over. Register. At the remote zone, it's disabled. It's authorized. Demo gods are hitting us all around today. Our keys are there. All right. I'm going to move on. We're getting close. But this is where I did to a different zone. It'll show you the status of the uploads and the issues if there are any. And you can work through those. That's for another day, setting that up and getting that all configured. I was hoping I had it running yesterday. All right. And then finally, if we go to back to our desktop. So one thing I really want to stress is go to the Desktop Containers 2020. Even if you're not using desktop containers, it's fascinating. It's going to be a great asset. You need that Firefox or Mozilla, version 45, because they're way up there now with a certain Java. They have the pre-made templates and applications for you. And that'll be included in the Desktop Containers 20 now. So the turbo build stuff is coming in. So just go there and just be fascinated. I think you'll be in great shape and just be fascinated by it. Test environment automation. We covered some ZSD automation using Ruby files, ZCM automation using Zman file and XML file for user source. You can download those at the zip file here. Sorry, went too fast. I'm going to put this in the. Let's see if I can get. I can't pick it up that way. I'm going to pick this up in the presentation and put it in chat. So let me grab it, put it in chat for you, and let's go over to chat. I guess I could have done exclamation DC20. That way you can download those files to be able to automate and adjust for your needs. So next time in the lab, we didn't touch much on desktop containers. We touched a little bit on it and just being clean environment in some of your devices. We can cover that in another ZENcast, but I do want to mention that next time we're going to be covering ZENworks inventory gathering process and flow, how it flows from the device taking the inventory not just the initial, but the next one, because it'll do deltas, and then it flows upstream to the satellites or the primary servers to the database, how that works, data collection form, how you can leverage that for your physical inventories, and of course troubleshooting, seeing how that flows and where things are held up. Also in October, we're going to be doing some database maintenance tools and tips. And most of all, I'm so glad you were able to come by and visit us this morning. I want you to keep safe, stay the distance, and most of all, keep smiling. Be kind to others, and I hope this was helpful, and that you come visit us again in 2 weeks. All right? Talk soon. Take care.